Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with another guest. This is another episode. I'm here with Demi Wylde. Demi, welcome to Multiple Voices.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to see you again. It's been a while.
See you again, yeah. I met Demi and at his podcast, actually. Tell us the name of the podcast.
It's called Acosmicjourney with Demi and Jay. I host it with my best friend, Jay Maceo.
Yeah, and we talked about all things occult. We talked about a lot of things. And initially I had contacted him because what does he do? Demi, he's, in his own words, okay? So he is a writer, producer, entrepreneur, and self-acclaimed sexual deviant, as well as a tarot reader and a spiritual, and spirituality is important in his life. So, and I thought to myself, how am I going to spin it this time? So I thought it would be great if he could talk to us about tarot, his experience with tarot, because I'm a reader as well. And it seems the tarot gives us the opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. What do you think, Demi?
Completely, yeah. I mean, I like to use it as kind of like a guide. It's kind of like therapy without being therapy in a way.
Yeah. And when did you pick that up and started using it as therapy?
Well, it's been kind of a long, arduous journey with it.
Why arduous? What kind of cards do you have?
Here's the thing. I suffer from acute ADHD. So
acute.
Learning things, it takes me either a long time or it takes me like a day. And tarot has always been one of those things where it's always been in the back of my mind. Like ever since I was like, 13 years old and hanging out in Borders bookstore and reading occult books and stuff, like just hanging out.
Yeah.
But I've never really like been a reader per se. I've started, I believe, teaching myself because I had a reading done when I was about 20 from a friend of mine, and she read it in such a way that it made more sense for me to read that way, because I always thought like you just read the book, you memorize everything that's in the book, and then you just spew it out.
Well, what happened? Tell us about that reading. Give us an idea.
Yeah. So basically what happened was when she was reading me, she was reading the symbols on the card. And so she was kind of applying those symbols to sort of a story that was telling. And it was like exactly the story that was being told in my life at that time. And so I was like, I didn't even know you can read.
Fascinated.
Yeah. And so that kind of like started me on the new journey of reading. I think I probably had my first deck shortly thereafter.
Well, what do you remember the deck that you?
Oh yeah, Rider-Waite.
I know. Yeah, I think Rider-Waite. The Rider-Waite deck is the ruin of all tarot readers. I hate to say it.
Truly, because it's one of those things. It's like I feel like tarot is a very personal type tool.
Sure.
And I use the word tool because it is a tool.
It's a divination tool.
Yeah. It tells us, information about ourselves that we wouldn't otherwise. I mean, I feel like tarot doesn't tell us anything that we don't already know.
Yes.
But at the same time, also is, it's easier to put things into perspective that way. If you see it laid out in front of you, literally.
Right.
But, when I picked up Rider-Waite, I was like, I don't get these cards because they're so old and like Renaissance-y and like just kind of like I don't relate to this artwork,
Yeah.
So I kind of like shelved it for a while, and then I think probably just like 2 years ago I picked up a Thoth deck or a Thoth.
Thoth. Yeah.
And honestly,
give us an idea of what that deck is like, because many people may not know what it's like.
Right. Well, Thoth is actually the deck made by Aleister Crowley, the famous occultist, back in like the 1800s. He actually died before it was completed. But he worked with this other woman artist who helped create the deck. And he used a lot of abstract colors and shapes and different types of imagery. He uses Kabbalah. He uses astrology, which is what I mostly use, is astrology. So that one made more sense to me to use
Yeah.
because I can understand at least the astrology aspect of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I picked it up and I was like, these cards speak to me in a way
Yeah.
that I've had not expected to hear. And when that happened, I just started learning a little bit more.
So this
more and
is
more
recent. You said last year you got it?
like 2 years. Yeah,
Oh,
2 years ago.
Recent. That's really recent.
Pretty recent. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
typically you don't read for other people, just you do you for friends and
I do.
things?
I do. Yeah. I do on occasion. What I like to do is I like to use it. Number one on the podcast. I use
Yeah.
it for like kind of like I do an astrology section on the podcast that deals with like a little bit of like a forecast going on for the week or whatever. And then at the very end, I'd use I pull 3 cards just to kind of give like a send off, I guess,
To crown
like a general
the episode. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I use that for that, obviously. But then I do give readings to other people a lot of the times, and I also use it on like TikTok and stuff. So it's a very useful tool.
Give me an idea. Give me an idea. Come on. I don't want you to take out the cards if you happen to have them nearby.
Oh, I do actually right here.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have the deck. Show us, well, for those of you who are watching the video, you can see the deck. Show us what it looks like.
I'll show you. Here's the death card, for example. It's a very different type of card.
Okay, so what I'm looking at is a very modern looking deck. The artwork is surely modern. Of course, there is typical, there are bones. There's the skeleton with the Grim Reaper. I don't remember what it's called, that tool, that harvesting tool.
The scythe.
The scythe, right. The scythe.
The scythe.
Yeah.
When I discovered this card, for example, number one, it has a scorpion over there. It has a fish. It has a serpent on it. So obviously there's a lot of water energy here.
Yeah.
Serpent is kind of like, the nemesis of God in certain instances, but also like it gave Eve the knowledge.
If I'm not mistaken, the death card, isn't that a Scorpio card?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's why the Scorpio is there. Show us another card so we can get a feel for it.
Sure. Well, there's the Hangman right there.
Okay, that's so the Hangman, they're very modern cards. These are light colors, blue, light, white, and
I love
green.
The colors. They're bright.
Yeah, bright.
The shapes in the back also mean certain things as well.
Hold it up to your hand, against your hand, to see how large it is, because typically they're very large, usually tarot, but this is not that tall as much as tarot decks usually are. They're wide cards, though. They're wide.
Yeah. When I first learned how to do these, they felt big in my hand, and I was like, these are kind of big.
Beautiful.
There's a Nine of Cups right here. This is one of my favorite cards.
The Nine of Cups. Well, I don't see
Knight
the
of
cup.
Cups.
No, there's the Knight. The Knight. I was looking for all the cups. Look at the wings. Beautiful. This is a beautiful card. Yeah.
I get this one a lot, like in my own readings for myself.
But
anyways, I love my other favorite thing is art. So like when I was studying journalism in college, one of my favorite projects that I would do is I would actually cover the art exhibits on the campus.
Right.
And so when I love artwork in any form. One of my favorite artists is Dali. I love bright colors. I love surreal. I love abstract. I love things that are just going to make you like aesthetically different,
Yeah.
And these to me were a completely different card from what I've seen from Rider Waite.
I'll make you laugh. I was in Amsterdam years ago, and I was by myself. I was, going around. Salvador Dali is one of my favorite. And it just so happened that my hotel was, a couple of blocks from the Salvador Dali Museum.
Oh, wow.
And that day I had been in the center of town, and I was, getting to be 8 in the evening, and I was so hungry. I was starving. So I go into a place. And I said, I really like to get something to eat. And he says to me, well, we don't serve food. And I was looking, and there were all, there was food there. And I said, well, what's this? He says, well, they're filled with marijuana, different forms and things like that. Well, I don't care. I said, I just need something to eat. I'm just hungry, right? So he says, here's the menu. He gives me the menu, and it's like being in a candy store. Which one do you choose, right? And I said, look, what do you suggest? He said, well, he looks me up and down and he says, what about number 7? And so he brings me a muffin. And I said, but I need like a cup of coffee or a glass of milk or whiskey, something to, throw it down. And he gives me a drink and he says to me, do you know where your hotel is? Of course I know where my hotel is. I said, okay. So he gives me this stuff. I sit down and I was just enjoying myself. Took my book out. I was eating, drinking, an hour and a half later after I go and I leave, and I was going back home to my hotel. I couldn't find the damn hotel.
I bet.
I was walking and walking. It was freezing. So all I could remember was Salvador Dali. Where's Salvador Dali? Oh, I couldn't believe it. And when he said, do you know where your hotel is? And I said, come on. Please.
How much cheese do you think that you consumed between the beverage and the muffin?
I don't know, but
edibles
enough.
Edibles affect you way differently than actually smoking marijuana.
Yeah.
I've actually hallucinated on edibles at one point.
I mean, really, I wasn't aware that it was that potent. I was just hungry, really, I could have eaten a steak, but they had muffins,
They've got muffins.
Too bad the museum was closed at that time. I would have loved to see those bendable clocks.
Oh, right. Totally.
Yeah. All right. So now let's get back to the tarot. That is a surprisingly modern looking deck. I didn't expect it. I expected it to be older.
You've never used it before?
No, I've never used it before. I'm going to look that up.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it looks like
really
it's beautiful.
These colors on the fortune card.
The Wheel of Fortune, yeah.
Wheel of Fortune.
So let's imagine that you're on one of your episodes, right? Mm-hmm. And the episode, we can give it a title. Do you usually start like that, Demi? You have a theme that you would want to cover in an episode? How do you organize your episodes?
So for the whole episode, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, before you start the show, do you have an idea of where you want to go and end up?
Oh, yeah. So we have a basic structure that we use. We just kind of like plug in the new things for the week. Mm-hmm. So basically we start talking about our week and like how we've been, what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. And then we go into like a news section. So like when we do the news, I start with the astrology forecast. So it's kind of like the weather forecast, mm-hmm. in a news thing. And so I start with the astrology forecast and I have like a certain message that comes through when I'm writing them out. And I'll do that in the very beginning, the channeled message of the week. Yeah. And then I'll do the, I'll write out previously or the night before, or like couple nights before the actual forecast for the week. I'll go through my week and from whatever I pull up from.
You must be really good as an astrologer.
I'm okay. I'm better at astrology than I am with tarot, but I'm kind of like getting better at both.
Are you
always
able to bring the astrology into the tarot card readings?
Oh, they bring themselves.
All right. Well, I need a demonstration.
They bring themselves.
I do work with astrology. Astrology gives me a headache, I have to admit, but I do it differently. Would you mind giving us an idea of how you send off your episode with 3 tarot cards? And maybe I can glean how you put the astrology in there.
So we start with the astrology. So basically I'm doing like the whole week first.
All right. So like, you give a reading.
Movements, the week's aspects, things like that. And then at the very end, I'll pull the 3 cards. Uh-huh. And then what's really funny was, I believe last week, so I pulled 3 cards. One was the Queen of Wands, the King of Wands, and the Queen of Discs or Pentacles. Mm-hmm. So King, Queen, Queen. Mm-hmm. And then finally, it was, I think my channeled message of the week was like divine alchemy or like the new alchemy, basically like kind of like the whole kind of concept for the week was kind of like taking old, converting it into something new, and transforming it into something more beneficial to ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
us as a whole. And
of course, the
I
magician came up.
no,
Oh.
so the queen of wands, so
Mm-hmm.
action,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
initial action of things.
Mm-hmm.
King of wands as well,
Oh,
and then queen of pentacles, which is kind of like that nurturing
fervent
the
and yeah,
ground.
nurturing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Earth
finally
sign.
when I pulled, I have another oracle deck that I use for like the final card.
Yeah. What
And
deck is
the
that?
last card that it's called the Cosmic Journey Oracle.
Ah.
I have them right here.
Ooh, you
But
didn't you didn't
my
design
message
that,
of the
did you?
week was the new alchemy,
Uh-huh.
and the card that I pulled was the the alchemical artist.
Ah.
That one right there. So I was
Yeah.
like, wow, like I said, they
They
make
come in.
themselves
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
make themselves very apparent
Very
when they want to be
interesting.
known.
Very interesting. So let's say that you have a friend come to you and they're having a hard time. They're having a hard
Hmm.
time. They can't stand their job anymore. They've had it.
Hmm.
And they were due for a promotion or something, or a new position that would be more suitable for their skills, for their gifts.
Hmm.
And so they're torn between wanting to leave and find another place, or
Hmm.
sticking it out because, I don't know, they just bought a house or something. They have a commitment, an economic commitment.
It sounds like you're talking about my life right now. My job.
Well, so what would you do? What kind of a spread would you do for them? Would you start with, say, one card, then add another, or you do, typically have some kind of a schematic drawing for a spread? How would you
I
work it
don't
out?
necessarily have a schematic drawing or anything. I just mostly pull 3 cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like my basic
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Like, what's the overall energy? That can come up as either past, present, future. It
Yeah.
can come up as kind of like overall theme, or I won't really know until the cards get out there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I ever need clarification on
Yeah.
cards, that's when I pull an
Pull
extra one
another.
for that
Okay.
specific card. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So how does this practice, this divination, link into the notion of spirituality or spiritualism? What is there a link? Because
Um,
the people who are from the Catholic religion or even Muslims, I mean, many have come to me for readings, but then they've realized that their religion uh, forbids any form of divination tools.
it's dogmatic. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they shy away from that. So, in this case, how
Mhm.
would you say that it links in, or it brings you toward a different view?
Well, see, I've always been the type of person that I always try to find the least traveled path. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
yes and no.
I grew up Baptist Christian.
Uh huh.
My grandma was sang in the church choir,
Ooh.
all kinds of stuff. So I knew from a very young age when I heard for the first time, because I'm gay
Uh huh.
myself,
Uh
and
huh.
I heard our preacher one day just going off about homosexuality and how it's
Ah.
bad and it's wrong and blah blah blah. And even at this point, I didn't know what gay was,
Yeah. Sure.
but I knew that whatever was being spoken about by this leader
There was something
that's,
off.
is negative.
Yeah.
And from my mind, there just seemed to be a very different type of. There's like 2 different gods that
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
either
Yeah.
God's either all loving and all knowing,
Yeah.
or God is vengeful and wrathful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's this dichotomy, and I'm like, there can't be both,
Yeah.
So I went on my own way when I was
Mhm.
young,
Yeah.
and I started, you know, discovering occult stuff.
How
and,
old
and
was this? About.
Oh, very young. I was probably like, I started maybe like 11.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I was hanging out in bookstores mostly.
Well,
um,
still, Still, what
Yeah,
kind of
I was
books
very
do you,
young.
where
I
would
was
you, I mean, under what section did you look? Was there occult? Yeah,
metaphysical.
metaphysical. There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, I was always like just thumbing through things
Mm-hmm.
and, always trying to find spell books to kind of
These
like,
spells, yeah.
just teenage
Teenage
stuff, you know
stuff,
what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah, but that in turn led me down this other path of, well, you know, okay, here's the other thing is I went through a lot of like, I went through a dark depression
Yeah.
when I was younger.
Even that
I
age, about that age, or after?
around 16,
Okay, so it's the
typical age.
tip of the.
And then I had a very difficult time coming into my own. I was bullied a lot. I
Mm-hmm,
got into drugs when I was very young.
mm-hmm,
I always had this. I mean, I was having a lot of sex to avoid certain things in
mm-hmm,
my life. So I had a lot of issues like throughout
mm-hmm.
my teens to my
Teens.
20s.
Mm-hmm,
And so when I came, I would say probably like, 28,
yeah,
return of Saturn era,
yeah.
when things started kind of like, do or die situations where
Ah,
I'm like, I need to figure this out with my life.
yeah. Give me an
And
example if you don't mind sharing.
well, okay, I'll just tell you exactly what happened in
Oh,
2016. So,
2016. So it's recent.
hmm
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah,
fairly
yeah,
recent. Yeah.
5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Me and my ex-boyfriend, we
Mm-hmm.
split up after 5 years together.
Mm-hmm.
I was leaving the city
Devastated.
that I'd been living at for,
Mm.
6 years in
Oh,
Seattle.
dear.
My grandmother, who was a very
Mm.
important part of my life, passed away from cancer that year.
Oh, dear.
Um, I lost serious friends that I've had for a very long
Oh, dear.
time. I was homeless for like a month.
Oh, my God.
Um, it was just a very rough year.
Yeah.
And overall, it was kind of like, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Literally.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, literally,
Yeah.
and, pulled myself up from my bootstraps. I got a job. I didn't have a job at the time for like months, but I got this job. So thankful that I did. Um, and I got my own apartment after that. I
Mm-hmm.
just, things started turning around for
Turning
me, but I still
around.
had a lot of like emotional
Baggage.
residual
Mm-hmm.
trauma
Mm-hmm.
baggage. Yeah. And so that's kind of like where I leaned more into like, my occult knowledge that I already kind of like accumulated. The astrology was definitely a huge impact on this. It gave me a sort of guidance.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me some sort
Yeah.
of guidance when I didn't have any.
Yeah. When you say, I was, for many, many years, I was an interpreter. So it's a habit for me to
Hmm.
listen to people, and I jump ahead to try to know where they're going because I work in simultaneous interpreting, And so when
Hmm.
you were saying, so that's when I turned to, and I was thinking the next word was going to be spirituality. Instead, you said the occult. Now,
Hmm.
give us a definition, because the occult for many people has a
The loaded
negative
term.
connotation, and it's a loaded term. So what was that for you?
For me, it's just esoteric knowledge. It's
Esoteric,
everything
yeah,
that is
yeah.
deemed taboo by religion, if you
Okay.
will. So it could be anything. It could
Right,
be
right,
something
sure.
mundane,
Yeah, like tarot reading.
um,
Hmm.
like tarot reading,
Yeah,
yeah, or just something mundane. I can't even think of an example right now, but
yeah, yeah.
there's many things that are
Right,
deemed
right,
occult.
right, right. Hmm.
Certain books are deemed occult, like Harry
Hmm.
Potter, for example, is
Right.
deemed occult.
Yeah, okay. All right,
It's
we'll
just
let that
anything.
pass.
It's just anything alternative,
Alternative, yeah. So
But therein, yes, is a certain
that's
level of
that's
spirituality that
where
also comes with it as
you
well.
turn to for
Yes.
guidance or help, right? Did it
Yeah.
work?
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, Not immediately, I
Yeah,
will
yeah, I
say.
guess. Yeah.
Not immediately, because I always feel like occult knowledge or esoteric knowledge or, divination, spiritual things kind of leave you with more questions a lot of the
Well,
time than
no.
they do.
That's definitely, definitely. And,
Yeah.
coming from a perspective of a researcher, doubt is a good thing. It's,
Totally.
there
Yeah.
is that moon card in the deck, or the high
Hmm.
priestess card, and they are cards that just don't talk. They
They
hide
don't. Yeah.
things from us and
Mhm.
from everyone. So there are I know for a fact that there are things we are not meant to know. And that's the difficulty when you're working as a diviner. When you read for
Right.
people, you just can't go there. In your case, was there something that worked more for you than other things, apart from all of the deviance, the sex, or anything that came your way, but in the occult area?
Well, honestly, I gravitated more towards astrology than
Hmm.
anything in the very beginning. So I've I've been doing that for probably, five longer than that even.
Well,
I'd
isn't
say
that
probably like
odd?
7, 8 years.
It's because the astrology, I think astrology comes probably as a technical, more of a technical, there's less
Sure.
interpretation than, I guess,
Yeah.
something like the tarot or any kind, crystals, reading crystals. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The interpreter, the astrologer's MO is basically to interpret the stars. So basically,
mhm,
like,
yeah,
it's almost exactly the same thing where
right.
you're
Yeah.
interpreting symbols
Yeah,
or,
you're right. You're right.
what
You're
have
right.
you, but
I'll give you that.
you're interpreting kind of like what these positions mean
Hmm.
in either a broad sense or an individual sense, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I always just like when I didn't know what to do, I'm like, well, let's turn to the stars. Let's
Yeah, let's
figure
look at
out
the
what they
stars.
say first, because I feel like I trust them more than I trust any
God.
human, you know?
I about 6 months ago, I spent so much money on the huge binoculars because I wanted to see the stars.
Hmm.
I live in Rome. You can't see any
Hmm.
stars. There's two lights of the city. You have to go way up high. So all I
Oh, I
could
know.
do
I
is
live in
see my
LA. Like
neighbors.
I saw
Yeah,
Orion's belt last night. That's the only three
yeah,
stars
yeah.
I could
I
see.
know. I know. You have to get somewhere. I have to find a place. So now we're into the astrology, and that's still at the level of personal interest, right?
Yeah.
Astrology has use in for many, just like a reading, it does.
Right.
Have you, since that one reading, that tarot reading that you had in the beginning, that you mentioned, had you ever gone? Have you ever gone back for another reading to
For
someone?
my friend, no, not specifically from her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that was kind of like the catalyst for like this
Mm-hmm.
kind of newfound interest in stuff that I already kind of like knew
Yeah.
about, but like never really spent the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, but as for astrology, I've had astrology readings before, but I had a
Ah.
very specific one 2 years ago
Mm-hmm.
from I one of my favorite astrologers, who actually is a friend of mine now.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Angel Idealism.
Mm-hmm.
She is New York's premier punk rock astrologer, which
Mm.
I immediately was gravitating to. I'm like, who is this woman? I need to know her. She is fabulous. And we had probably one of the most intense 3-hour astrology readings that
Mm.
I've ever had. I've seen her a couple times since then,
Mm-hmm.
but there were just specific things that had happened
Mm.
that she pinpointed, like
Wow.
certain instances, actual things happened that year that she pulled out from that reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's something really to this. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not to the point where I can pinpoint things like she did,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I
How long has
absolutely
she
am like,
been working with astrology? Do you know?
I think she's been doing it for like 30 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
I,
that'll
I've been
experience.
doing it maybe like, 7,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
still, it takes time. It takes time,
it
and
takes a
you
lot of
learn
time. Yeah,
from other people reading for you.
completely.
That's really important.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
learned a lot from her, just being friends with her and stuff. But yeah, like that to me was like the moment where I'm like, all right, I really need to start taking this a little bit more seriously than I have.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started. Like I got like a bunch of astrology books. I got my first programs, like read the charts and everything.
Yeah.
It's just it set me on this
You're
ADHD,
you're
for example.
yeah.
When you're interested in something, you don't
You
stop.
don't stop until you get it.
You hyper fixate on things.
Wow.
If you're not interested,
Yeah.
good luck getting any interest in it whatsoever.
Oh, that's too
But when
bad.
you are fixated on something,
Hmm.
you go for it. There's been many nights where I'm just like, I'm here reading until like 4 in the morning, just like poring over charts
Yeah.
and
Before the
I gotta figure
magic
out what
leaves
this
you.
means and
Yeah.
what that means, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. Well, that's
But at
great. I
the
mean,
same
it's
time, you
great.
learn.
You
Yeah,
do learn, and it's fascinating for me to see someone talk about something that I just don't care for, and
hmm
it, not that it wants me to go there, but it makes me think again. Oh, well, then I was wrong. Someone loves
mm,
astrology. Listen, let me
hmm
ask you a couple of things, because I read here a writer, and of course that means you write, and I know that you're right.
right.
A producer, an entrepreneur. The producer, what can you describe that for us? Or is that the
So I
in
produced the
between
podcast,
jobs?
for example.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Now I was
So, for
wondering
example,
in
that's the
terms of other people's work. That's what I meant.
yeah. No, I haven't ventured outside at that
Mm-hmm,
point yet. But um, what I do is I do produce our show, both
mm-hmm,
audio and visual format. I
uh-huh,
edit, I direct, I
mm-hmm,
write the script, and
mm-hmm.
I do
That's
a
a
whole
lot
lot
of
of the
work.
things.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work,
Mm-hmm,
yeah. But at the same time, I'm priming myself for my next job, which hopefully, I just wait tables at this point right now, but I'm actively searching for production positions like
yeah, that's
like associate
uh-huh,
producer,
yeah.
things like that around the area. Obviously,
Well,
I live in
that's what
Hollywood,
I
so like,
feel your next step is. That's so. I
yeah,
mean, you've got a lot of road to travel yet. I mean,
oh yeah.
yeah, lots, lots, lots. Boy, did you get some clarity or insight from that 3-hour reading with your friend?
Yes. I actually still have the recording because I like to
Go
go
back.
back to it every once
Yeah,
in a while and like
yeah.
listen to certain parts. It's like, yeah, that happened. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. So you would agree that anybody literally can take up a tarot deck and use it, because you remember you said for guidance initially,
yes and no.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like yes, anyone can read tarot if they were interested in it. However, I don't think they can just pick up any deck. Like, for example, I picked up the Rider Waite. I said, this is Chinese to me. It might as well be. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm,
Whereas I picked up, because I already had an interest in Aleister Crowley, I picked up
mm-hmm.
his deck.
Yeah.
That spoke to me a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I have, if you have, there's a tarot deck for everybody,
Oh,
basically.
there's
I,
so
I
many
think there's
all over the
so
world.
many different kinds, so much
Yeah.
beautiful artwork and
Mm-hmm,
things. And, I have several over here, but I mainly just use my
yeah.
Thoth deck.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just you just have to really know what it is that you want to look for
Yeah,
when it comes to like getting a
the
tarot deck. Yeah,
question.
you have to have something that speaks to you.
Yeah, and it has
I
to
feel.
speak to you. Yeah, but so no,
hmm
in my question meant that anybody can pick it up and get some guidance if they have a
Oh,
deck that speaks
sure.
to them in some way. They'll get guidance. What I
Yeah.
want to say though is, you say usually it's a three card spread, and I
hmm
could literally remember taking up a tarot because I'd started reading. I don't even want to say how many years ago, with Italian oracle cards, which are called the La Vera Sibilla, and I teach courses for those. And when I found a tarot deck that I loved, I was traveling between Rome and Tuscany, and I saw this deck under this table. It was so gorgeous. I thought, oh my, I have to get that, So I got that, and I was in the train looking at them, and there was a friend of mine who had spent years studying the tarot, and I said, I picked up a tarot card deck. I was going home, and they're fascinating, they're beautiful. She said to me, "Look, they are not toys. Don't think that you're just going to pick them up and start reading them. I think it's dangerous for you to do that." And I thought to myself,
hmm
it's no longer a friend, but I thought that's an odd thing to say. That's an odd
Very
thing.
ominous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. I mean, come on. As if she had the tarot reading cornered, or the market cornered.
Right.
It was funny. It was funny. But I have to say
Well, maybe
that
she did, and she would lose clients that way.
who knows? But
If
she
you start
never.
reading, I'm gonna lose clients. So
No, she wasn't a professional reader. She had never read for
okay.
clients, And then I went on to do that. But what was interesting is the way they speak. Oracle cards are chatty. They talk.
Yeah,
But the
they are.
tarot come down with a message which is really forthright. Um, sometimes they could be playful depending on the deck that you have. But like you said, it's interesting to interact with oracle cards too to get some clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how cards don't mix. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Lenormand card deck. Well,
Mm-mm.
the jury's still out as to where they started from. There is this woman, Madame Lenormand from France. Instead, we find the initial decks in Germany with German writing. And so there are 36 cards, and I do a end of the year up, future looking forward for the next year with a small grand tableau. Grand tableau would be all of the 36 cards,
Yeah.
9, 9, 9, and 9, and reading and, mixing. I mean, long, very, very long. What's interesting about those cards is they're a bona fide oracle card deck, but I can't put them next to, say, this other deck, La Vera Sibilla, because they don't like each other. They're
Mm-hmm.
they're snobs, And it's funny because they, don't come out. They will not speak. They will not play along. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I have certain cards that do work together pretty well. I can't think specifically of any ones that I have. Oh, the Star Spinner, those ones are really good. That's
Oh,
like the LGBT one that I have.
mm-hmm.
So they actually have LGBT tarot
Tarot.
cards. They're
Yeah.
beautiful.
Do you
But
mix decks sometimes?
sometimes, yeah, if I want to do like a larger type reading,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I'll take 2 or 3 decks and then
Mm.
plus an oracle deck or something, and just kind of like give like a broader.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of paints a bigger picture. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
If I'm doing something simple, then I'll just do
Mm-hmm.
one deck, 3 cards, maybe a couple oracle cards, just to kind of give
Mm-hmm.
just like a basic reading.
Yeah.
If I want to do something very in depth, yeah, I can mix cards.
So you
Certainly.
are in between jobs. You are thinking of moving somewhere else, going somewhere else to another job. So you're on the move. I mean, this is a very good period for you, right? Isn't it? I mean, I would think that
I believe so.
change is
Yeah.
really positive.
Yeah, I'm at this point currently like I'm spending a lot of time at home.
Yeah.
I'm not like going out. I'm
Mm-hmm.
spending a lot of time like to myself, really with my thoughts, and really kind of like getting back in touch with like myself and what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm tying up loose ends and actively seeking for my next step because
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting tables for like 6 years now. So I'm kind
Oh
of
yeah,
like over it.
I know what that's about. I lived in
And
New
so I'm
York a
like, you
long
know what?
time.
I'm ready for the next step. I
Mm-hmm.
want to really pursue this thing that I'm doing on the
Mm-hmm.
side full time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the next logical step is for me to actually start working in media, working
Media.
in, production or broadcasting, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the case may be, but really kind of getting that expert knowledge
Mm-hmm.
under my belt
Hmm.
and really trying to make something of myself,
Yeah, make something of yourself, but something that you like to do. I mean, something that's
Exactly.
interesting for you to do. Well, one day I'm going to say, I know that boy. He was on my show. Demi, thank
I've
you
been
so
toying with the
much.
idea of making I've been writing a screenplay,
Oh, now we're
just
getting
for
down to the
fun.
nitty gritty. Come on.
Yeah,
Just
like
for
just for
fun. You
fun,
don't
because
do that
I
just for fun. No, you don't. Screenplays are particular. They're not just a blog. Screenplays have a format. And
right.
so, come on, tell us more.
Well, I just started. So I've had several ideas for screenplays. But like one was for a movie, one was for a TV show, but I feel like they're a little bit more further down the line. I wanted to start with something a little bit more kind of like simple. And so I started writing this thing called, or I was listening to a podcast actually, and it was called 1949 Secrets or something like that.
Hmm.
And I got this idea for um kind of like a murder mystery, because I love true crime and
Oh,
stuff too.
me too.
So I like a murder mystery type
Yeah.
TV show that's
Yeah.
revolving around this person's podcast who broadcasts secrets from people. You know what I mean?
Oh, this sounds
So,
great.
yeah. So there's a little like, opportunity for comedy in there, but there's
Yeah.
also opportunity for like really this kind of like darker turn as
Yeah.
well. So I
Hmm.
really like playing with that as well. So I've just started doing this. I'm still kind
That's
of like in the
fun,
beginning stages
but
of
it's
it,
fun.
but it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I had a guest on my show, and he's in the same Podmatch network that we are in. He has his own podcast. His name is Frank. Well, his name is Kevin, and he has a podcast called Frankly Kev. And
Mm.
he has his own, that podcast is about people who are heroes. They've gone from this situation to another. And he has been an actor in the past, but now he's writing scripts. He's writing
Mm.
different. And it would be interesting for you to get in touch with him. If you
It would, yeah.
at Frankly Kev, he's I can't remember. Well, I'll give it to you when I look it up on my own things. But that is a very interesting person to contact, because he has
Yeah.
a very interesting story, and he too, like you, went through all the stages. The cancer, the homelessness. The actor from the stars to the stalls. So it's
Hmm.
interesting. That's an interesting person. But I think I will be saying, I know that guy. I know that guy. Thank you so much, really, Demi, for coming and taking the time to spend
Yeah,
with
thank
us
you for
talking.
having me. I love speaking with you. You're always such a bright spot in my
Oh,
day.
you sweetheart, sweetheart. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye, honey.